I'm going to be clear. I'm divorcing you.
The words suddenly spoken by my husband hit me like a punch to the head. Lately, something had been off about him. There was no affection or even conversation between us, and his constantly sour mood had been suffocating, but I never imagined he would say something like this. My name is Scarlett, 28 years old. Before getting married, I was a career woman in a major corporation, outperforming many of my male colleagues. But then I met Ronald, a client, and something changed inside me. As we encountered each other more frequently, our relationship deepened, quickly evolving from dating to marriage. Ronald believed that a wife should stay at home. For me, who had been dedicated to my career, transitioning to a housewife was a significant challenge. However, realizing that both of us being busy could lead to a life of passing each other by, I decided for our future to become a housewife. Until then, I had been indifferent to household chores and personal care. Getting married didn't suddenly make me proficient in housework. Cleaning, laundry, cooking, I struggled with all of it, barely managing to meet basic standards. Despite many failures, I didn't give up. I scoured the internet for efficient ways to clean and do laundry, eventually managing to get by. And then there was cooking, my biggest challenge, which I learned from my brother. He ran a Western-style restaurant and, despite his busy schedule, taught me the basics on his days off. Thanks to his guidance, my cooking skills gradually improved. Though it took time, I started making delicious meals that Ronald enjoyed and asked for seconds. This became my daily joy. My feelings were always disrupted by Anne, my mother-in-law. Anne didn't like me from the beginning because I was focused on my career. When we went to visit her for our marriage proposal, her first words were, "Do you really intend to be a housewife?" And as soon as she saw my beautiful nails, she blurted out, "You plan to cook for Ronald with those long nails?" I'm sorry, they are a bit flashy because of my work. I intend to keep them short now that I'm becoming a housewife. Although I agreed with Anne, she continued, "Just shortening your nails doesn't make you a good wife. Ronald, are you sure about this? To be honest, I'm really worried." Ronald just laughed off Anne's words, but her constant negativity made me feel uneasy. Anne, without any prior notice, would often come to our house after we got married. And, "Look at this corner. It's full of dust. Your cleaning isn't thorough. And look at the laundry. It's all wrinkled. You need to iron better." She would say that while going through the house, looking for any faults. Or, "I've never seen such an empty fridge. How can you feed Ronald properly with this?" And invariably, she would finish by inspecting the inside of the refrigerator. "I just used up all the vegetables today. I'm going to the supermarket later for the sale. As for the clothes, they are designed to be wrinkly. Ironing them would ruin their shape." I tried to explain. "I don't believe such excuses. I can't be fooled. I'm an experienced housewife. Honestly, I feel sorry for Ronald. You're clearly not cut out for this." Anne always had a habit of denying me from the beginning. Nonetheless, I tried to reassure myself that it wasn't cohabitation, and I could endure the few hours she was around, but things took a sudden turn. Anne had always had trouble with her knees, but she slipped on the stairs and worsened her condition. Ronald was deeply concerned about her. "I can't bear the thought of Mom living alone like this. If her condition worsens or she has another accident, she might end up bedridden. So I talked to Mom about it, and I've decided to let her use the study that I use. She'll stay there." Ronald abruptly told me this. "Wait a minute. Are you saying we're going to live together?" My world went dark. Ronald had already completed the procedures to sell the in-laws' house and had set a moving date. Even though it was painful for me when Anne visited occasionally, the idea of living under the same roof with her was almost unbearable. But without giving me a chance to object, Ronald and Anne had made the arrangements, and Anne finally moved into the house. In our already cramped apartment, life with Anne began. Anne complained about her knee pain and refused to do any household chores. Instead, she sat in the living room all day, watching me as I did the housework. The most painful moments were when I cooked meals. "Were you feeding Ronald this awful food? You're a terrible wife. If it had come to this, you should have started living together earlier. We shouldn't have let you run wild like this." Anne would make such snide comments every time, yet she never cooked herself. She would taste the food I was preparing without permission, adding water or seasoning to ruin the flavor. Sometimes, when I had carefully prepared a dish, she would come and stir it so vigorously that the vegetables lost their shape. Anne would eat such dishes and say, "It's much better now," in a cheerful tone. But to me, the food tasted thin or too strong, with the ingredients' shapes destroyed. It was far from edible. Ronald would silently eat, puzzled by the situation. "I did the final touch-up. Without my adjustments, this dish would have been a disaster. Scarlett always makes weirdly bad food. Poor Ronald. From now on, I'll keep an eye on Scarlett. How is it? Delicious, isn't it?" Seeing Anne's joyful expression.
"Oh, it's delicious. With Mom around, I feel at ease."
Ronald matched the mood and was delighted. After being subjected to this kind of treatment and snide remarks repeatedly, even I, who usually remained patient, had reached my limit. "If you're going to intervene at the finishing stage every time, then I won't bother cooking from the start. You can cook however you like." I said this a bit firmly. "Are you serious? Even though I've been saying my knee hurts, you want to keep me in the kitchen for a long time? What kind of nerve do you have? You're truly a terrible wife." Saying this, she began making a big fuss about her painful leg as soon as Ronald returned home. "Ronald, I've been waiting for you. Please listen to me. Scarlett is bullying me. She's telling me to cook. Even though my leg hurts so much, there's no way I can do it." Anne clung to Ronald, wiping away non-existent tears.
"Scarlett, are you saying such things to someone with a bad leg? Mom is really pitiful. Show a little more compassion. You lack empathy. What if you force Mom, who has a painful knee, to do something she can't, and it leads to irreparable consequences?"
Saying this, he patted Anne's back. But no matter what we said to Ronald, it was futile. He always took Anne's words as gospel, and seemed like more of a mama's boy than prioritizing me. Anne and Ronald would talk every day about how great it was to live together. They seemed oblivious to my daily ordeal, and Ronald tolerated Anne's behavior, allowing her to bully me. Anne had been lamenting the fact that we still didn't have children, even after 3 years of marriage. Recently, she had been looking at my face every day and sighing. "When will we see grandchildren? I've been waiting for 3 years, and why aren't you getting pregnant? I mean, I got pregnant with Ronald in the next month after marriage. Could it be that there's something wrong with you?" Even without such comments, I shared the desire for children. I wanted to leave pregnancy to nature, but with Anne mentioning it every day, it became more like pressure, causing significant stress. Anne, unaware of these issues, continued. "I've been thinking, maybe there's something wrong with you absolutely. After all, it's been 3 years and still no children. How about going to the hospital and getting tested? There must be something wrong with you." She continued to attack me with heartless words, blaming me for not being able to have children. Despite wanting children, Ronald had become increasingly busy with work since we got married. He would always return home late at night, even on weekends, claiming it was work-related socializing. I had become a housewife to support my busy husband, but spending time with Ronald, who had too little time at home, had become a challenging task. There was no way we could have children under these circumstances. Moreover, lately, even when he returned from work, he was often in a bad mood. He no longer initiated conversations with me, and he remained unresponsive to my inquiries. I had no idea why this was happening, but I began to tread carefully, trying not to provoke Ronald too much, thinking he was tired from work. With Anne's snide remarks and bullying added to the mix, along with the deteriorating relationship with Ronald, I had no emotional outlet. I felt like I was suffocating in this cramped apartment every day. I suggested to Ronald that I start part-time work, even if it's just for a few hours a day, to change my mood.
Do you have a problem with my income? You're not even good at housework, and Mom always scolds you for it. Who are you to arrogantly say you want to work outside? Besides, what if Mom falls and gets injured while you're not at home? You're acting all high and mighty. Stop saying foolish things. Just do your role properly. Don't ever say anything stupid again.
Ronald, who never responded to me whenever I tried to talk, suddenly became furious and started shouting at me. I thought, if I'm going to be told such terrible things for simply making a suggestion, I'd rather not say anything anymore. Our conversations ceased entirely. I had honestly started to feel the limits of living with these two one day. Suddenly, Ronald said,
I need to talk to you.
I had a bad feeling, but I went to the living room as he requested.
To be honest, I want a divorce.
I felt like I had been punched in the head. I never expected to hear those words from Ronald. What's this all of a sudden? Why are you saying that? I asked Ronald while trying to appear as calm as possible.
What's all the commotion?
Anne arrived in the living room.
I want to divorce Scarlett.
Upon hearing that, Anne smiled.
Well, that's fine. This woman can't even have children and is useless. It's better for you to break up with her soon,
she said, approaching Ronald. Please, tell us the reason for the divorce. As I pressed him for answers, Ronald replied,
It's nothing special. It's just a personality mismatch. Our lives have drifted apart, and we don't even talk anymore. There's no point in living together like this. We don't have children, so there's no reason we can't get a divorce.
I sighed softly upon hearing Ronald's reasoning. Then I took a piece of paper from the cupboard. Funny coincidence, I've been thinking the same thing. Saying that, I spread out the divorce application form that had already been filled in my section.
What's this? You're well prepared.
Although Ronald was somewhat surprised, he filled out the form and signed it. I watched as he did so. But the reason I want a divorce is quite different from yours. I took out a large envelope and showed Ronald dozens of photos. Ronald frowned as he looked at the photos, but after a while he said,
Is this me? What's this photo?
He took hold of the photo and started sweating. Exactly, Ronald. In the photo, you're arm in arm with a female colleague from work, right? You seem quite close. The photo showed Ronald and the woman walking with their arms linked, entering a hotel. I've been wondering why you haven't been coming home much in the 3 years since we got married. Then, I received eyewitness information that you were having dinner with an unknown woman. The eyewitness was my younger brother. A while ago, when my brother was closing his shop late at night, he spotted Ronald walking hand in hand with an unknown woman. Suspicious, he followed them, and the two of them disappeared into a hotel. My anxious brother quickly contacted me. Knowing about Ronald's affair, I decided to hire a detective to obtain conclusive evidence. In addition to the photographic evidence, I also obtained a record of Ronald and the woman's activities. Surprised? How does it feel to know that all your infidelity was exposed to me? I wonder what you're feeling right now. Anne was just as shaken as Ronald.
Wait a minute, Ronald. What's going on? You cheated, and you've been caught with evidence? If you go through with a divorce in this situation, you'll be in big trouble.
Anne hastily clung to Ronald. Ronald wiped his sweat and said,
It's no big deal. Both of us want a divorce, so we're on the same page. We can have an amicable divorce, and there shouldn't be any problems.
I couldn't help but laugh a little at Ronald's lack of composure. Amicable? It's astonishing to hear that word come from your mouth. Are you so afraid of being asked for alimony in the divorce? I have no intention of settling things amicably. Besides, Anne has done quite a lot to me as well. I took out my mobile phone and played the recorded audio for them. It was a recording of Anne repeatedly saying that my inability to conceive was due to a problem with my body. Listening to this again, she's been saying some really harsh things. Upon hearing this, Ronald exclaimed,
"Hey, Mom, did you really say such things? That's going too far. We can't complain if we get sued for this. What have you done?"
Ronald held his head in his hands and criticized Anne. "But I never expected you to be recording everything." Anne was initially taken aback, but as the argument escalated, she boldly responded. "Ronald was cheating too, wasn't he? He has no right to blame me like that without even addressing his own actions. He's the one who did the worst things. I don't want him to lecture me." She suddenly became defiant and directed her anger towards Ronald. As Anne and Ronald engaged in an ugly argument, I quietly packed my belongings. "I will take responsibility for submitting this divorce application. You will receive a formal notification from the law firm later regarding the payment of the divorce settlement. Please make sure to comply." As I headed towards the front door,
"Wait a moment. Can't we reconsider the divorce? I love only you. Let's talk it over again."
Ronald and Anne hurriedly followed me. "That's right. There's no need to break up. It was just a light joke. I'm sorry. We don't need to rush about having children. Let's forget everything that happened before and start over, okay?" They both tried to persuade me with smooth words, but I replied firmly. "You were talking about divorce just a moment ago, but as soon as you realized you might have to pay alimony in a divorce settlement, your attitude suddenly changed. I can't trust you two. Goodbye." I said that and walked out of the apartment. The woman Ronald had been cheating with turned out to be married. I also demanded alimony from her, so naturally her husband received legal documents from my lawyer. The enraged husband of the woman demanded a divorce settlement from Ronald after their divorce. Surprisingly, the woman's husband turned out to be a senior executive and Ronald's business partner. The woman's husband exerted pressure on Ronald's company, and, in desperation, the company demoted Ronald and transferred him to a regional office. Forced to pay double the divorce settlement, Ronald lost his position at the company and became isolated. I heard that he eventually submitted his resignation and drowned his sorrows in alcohol, hardly working. I also demanded a divorce settlement from Anne, and she had to deplete her modest savings to make the payment. Now she works tirelessly in part-time jobs from morning till night, as Ronald, who has become an unemployed alcoholic, can't contribute. There's no time to complain about knee pain. I temporarily returned to my parents' home and started helping out at my younger brother's Western-style restaurant. At first, I only worked in the dining area, but over time, I took on cooking tasks and honed my skills. I found immense joy in customers smiling and complimenting the dishes I prepared. Realizing the greatness of cooking, I continued to learn under my brother's guidance and expanded our business, eventually opening a second branch. I was entrusted with the role of head chef. Furthermore, I recently found a boyfriend. In fact, I had received numerous offers from the company I left after getting married, asking me to return. My former boss had been reaching out repeatedly, stating that no one could fill my shoes as a top salesperson. Although I had considered returning once, my passion for mastering the culinary arts made me formally decline the offer. I thought I would never have any contact with my former boss again, but surprisingly, he started coming to my restaurant frequently and invited me for drives and movies on my days off. Later, I learned that my former boss had been thinking about me all along. I was drawn to his sincerity, and we started dating. He encourages and supports me, even with my busy schedule as a chef. I cherish the happiness of having someone like him in my life. Something that may seem ordinary to others, but it's irreplaceable to me. I want to treasure this happiness forever. That's how strongly I feel about it.